Welcome back to WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Posse. We're trying to be upbeat around here. I begin the segment laughing because it's been the last time I got together with this guy, I don't think Tom Brady had won his seventh ring or whatever it was at this point. Bill Cole joins us now from Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. At some point, I'm going to wear the Gordian Energy hat. I wear it backwards summertime because it has the Gordian Energy name here. Dude, I got to throw something at you just to start the whole party, all right? Because I know you're a little itchy this week. We're going to talk baseball, a little football, but just on solar and just on energy and just on Texas alone, and this isn't even red or blue or cold or warm. This is actually Bill Maher has been trying for like 3 years to get his solar turned on in California, and you've told me all about like solar and energy. This is an interesting week to discuss energy, Bill Cole, I think.
I think it's remarkable. I mean, I don't know what it totally says about me, but like I can watch the Weather Channel I did watch the Weather Channel for probably 90 minutes last night. Like that.
It wasn't even a storm here. It wasn't even snow here.
Right. This was my evening programming, right? You know, like it is.
You believe in climate change. You would say that.
I believe it's simpler than that for me. Like I don't have the time to do the research, right? And in our world, if I'm unable to find a trusted source, I don't know what to believe, right? So everything's got so much.
Well, you got to trust somebody. That's the first thing. I keep telling people in my life I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. Everybody's fine. I'm Bruce Springsteen. We're going to meet in the middle. I mean, let me make fun of Bruce here. You know, at some point, you got to believe in something, right? And I tend to believe people, in my experiences, who've been honest with me over long stretches of time. And I really have a hard time if you've been dishonest once with me. You know what I mean? That's my level of trust. And it probably comes from poor parenting on the part of my paternal and maternal parents, quite frankly, who lied to me a lot. So,
right.
Yes.
I think climate change is like a loaded word at this point, right? It means so many different things to so many different people. What I can tell you that I believe in is, number one, like there is some finite amount of resources under the ground that we will run out of at one point. Inherently, I go with the concept that like if you burn something and you breathe that smoke in, it hurts. So I think that's got to be bad. And then ultimately I was going to say Trump card, but I didn't want to head off on a different tangent. But like
I did that earlier in the week. I'm over that. He's gone now.
To me, there is
Joe soothed me on Tuesday night by speaking to me like a human being, which is
right.
something we haven't heard in a long time.
There's a giant fireball in the sky that produces enough energy that it can burn my skin and dry up puddles of water on the ground. To me, as a human race, if we're not sophisticated enough to capture that energy and use it when it's coming out of the sky for free, well, you know, we're just I don't know if this is a G-rated program, right? Like
we're just foolish.
Pretty pathetic of us, right? So to me, it's not about a debate over climate change or whatever. Like I don't care. That to me, that's all just
people. Best use of resources.
Yeah, that's where that's where I get to it. It's like I don't. You guys can talk about.
Well, this speaks to who you are and your family being on roofs for 100 years. And look, I do infomercials, advertorials for you. We're friends. We have a beer. We don't agree politically all that much, even though we're sort of aligned, which is I do appreciate that because it does give me different opinions, which I do appreciate, especially when they're. But the amount of research that you've done into solar to try to sell that to someone because your family has been on roofs working in the sun and working when my wife and I on Tuesday, it was Fat Tuesday. I don't know if you know this, Bill. Tuesday, I'm not a Mardi Gras guy. I've never really loved Cajun food until the last 10 or 15 years of my life. And I like it a lot more now, etouffee and go out and do things. We went to walk down the Mothers, 2-3 blocks from my house, right? And we turned around on Tuesday. We got all bundled up. We made it half a block, and we turned around, and we're like, no freaking way. We're done. We're going to eat leftovers. We had nachos that had been in the bag, like all smushed. we made nachos out of residue. You know what I mean? Like the bottom of, you know what I mean? Literally.
Sure.
So that's how cold it was. And then I think for 100 years on mornings like today, your people get up on roofs, right? So you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like there is
Sure.
something about experiencing the conditions and you being on roofs for 100 years to say what's behind you on the video right now, that if we put solar there, maybe Texas wouldn't be frozen this morning. You know,
Well,
maybe my cousins and relatives wouldn't be down in Austin and in Houston. Screw Dallas. I don't. They can freeze their asses off. But
to the point of people being able to manipulate situations, like I listened to a guy on, it was probably Bloomberg Radio yesterday, explain how this is all solar's fault. like that
you got to
we
stop
are.
listening to right wing radio, dude. I keep
No, that
telling you
wasn't
that. I keep telling Peter that. I keep telling my
Bloomberg's
friends that.
Bloomberg's not right wing.
But that is a concept that's coming from Abbott in Texas, who blamed it on wind turbines freezing. I mean, like anything that can be said like that can be researched. And you brought this up at the beginning. Who do I trust? Right. Not Bloomberg anymore. How about that? You know, after you hear that.
I think Bloomberg is. I mean, my appreciation for Bloomberg is that everything is sort of financially tilted, which the skeptic again in me says that pretty much every decision
that the oil people in Texas run the money. They got George Bush elected. That's how it happened. If you go back and look at the research in 2003, that's why they are on their own Texas grid and not on the East or the Western grid, which, you know, is sort of a problem for our country now, because now we have to declare a natural disaster, go down to Texas, people die. There's no doubt about that. Animals die, like all of that goes on. Not that, you know, heating the inside would have saved the outside. If it's 6 degrees in the field, it's 6 degrees in the fields, I guess. But there is a thought that they could be doing this better, but the money is running the show, right? I mean, and that's where we are in this society, quite frankly.
Look, if you believe that we build our society in a way to operate perfectly in once every 100-year storms, in once every 100-year situations and scenarios. If you believe,
be careful, it's a locust year. I just want to point that out.
Right. I mean, we don't, right? Like this is very specific to my experience, right? The designs of roof systems. This is gonna sound really boring.
Get nerdy. It's fine. Bear with
me.
We'll talk about the Orioles and the Ravens in a little bit. It's fine.
I mean,
I'm here to learn.
So conceptually, there's a flashing piece that goes vertical, right? And at some point, that vertical flashing piece has to stop. And the question is, in your locale, how high does that need to be based on typical weather conditions? Because if you have 4 feet of snow piled up in a drift and it starts to melt, there's a chance water can get behind that flashing, because we don't flash 4 feet high, right? Like 8 inches is good in Maryland. 8 inches is good in most of the country, but we don't design things to deal with extremely crazy scenarios. I was in Dallas.
Sorry.
I was in Dallas. Yeah, I agree. I was surprised. It was my first time, but the day after the Super Bowl last year.
Most hateful people on earth, Dallas people.
I was in Dallas the day after the Super Bowl a year ago for the roofing convention. I was very disappointed, but I was probably in the wrong places, although I did have good barbecue. It's not supposed to be 8 degrees, and there's not supposed to be 6, 7 inches of snow. Like, it's not supposed to be that way. The county government, city government, they don't buy snowplows. You know, it's like when Atlanta gets snow. Like, they don't know what to do. People don't know how to drive. We have to have
it doesn't mean your power should turn off, though, dude, and you should freeze.
I hear you, and I agree with you. Somebody needs to look into that, and they need to.
By the way, the first thing the other day when the ice storm came over the week, my wife looked at all the wires. She saw the pretty pictures in the morning. We're like, oh, no, nobody's going to have power by 2 o'clock, right?
Right. But I think the part that we fail is there's so much bureaucracy around trying to help our neighbors that's where we fall down. Like, if everyone acknowledges that we're not going to build things to handle, these once in a lifetime events, then we have to have a really effective crisis plan so that when this stuff happens, we can fix it right away.
Not much I know as the president of the United States, but we're going to have crises, right? We really
Right.
are,
Right.
and if you don't learn anything from Katrina 15 years later, you don't handle hurricanes well. If you don't learn anything from your whole state freezing over and people dying, then, and you don't change your behavior, right? Then,
I mean, this is not meant to be as critical as it sounds, but it is critical, right? I think it was Dallas or one of the Texas towns. It was like one of their warming centers had pipes burst and they had to close it. It's like, we're going to put a little bit of money towards this crisis situation.
well, it's like when it was built in
ever
1984. Somebody said, "Oh, Charlie, it never gets below freezing here. If it does, it'll be a disaster. We won't be here to deal with it. Well, let's not worry about it."
I don't really think we need to worry about them fallout shelters no more, but hey, we can rename them and we'll just call them warming centers. Yeah, I mean, it's it's crazy.
Repurposing. Bill Cole is here. He is repurposing all sorts of roofing. My wife repurposed me some Rofo coffee here this morning in the Cole roofing mug. Gordian Energy also there, putting up solar. Anything else?
I came across a quote yesterday that I want to share with you.
Oh, go ahead. Let's do it.
You hit it like 5 minutes ago at the beginning.
Okay.
Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "The middle of the road is all of the usable surface. The extremes, right and left, are in the gutters." And I was listening to a podcast.
I'm chewing on that. I'm processing that. It's still my first cup of coffee.
So I was listening to a podcast guy, Dan Carlin, does hardcore history.
Okay.
Like, phenomenal. If you like listening to history, he's like, if you were ever lucky enough back before the pandemic, when you could go to bars and you might sit down next to a stranger and you might strike up a conversation for some random reason. If you sat next to this guy and he started telling you the story about like World War I, you would be entranced, right? And hours would go by. So anyway,
went to Colorado Boulder and was in L.A. Academy Award son of Lynn Carlin and Ed Carlin, Eugene, Oregon. I'm looking him up. Hardcore history. I like it.
He also does kind of like these current event podcasts too. So I don't know. I was listening to one of his yesterday, and it was maybe a week after the storming of the Capitol. So that's kind of was the purpose of his talk. But
one of the more interesting events in our recent lifetime, I think. So,
and
I've had some interesting debates with other people who seem to be on the side of the Nazis, and like, hey, they stormed the Capitol. It was good work. Let's do it again. I'm like, no, let's not. Let's not have people like that running for office. No, let's not do that.
I was a little taken back. There were some things that the man said that I didn't necessarily agree with, but generally speaking, he's fairly middle moderate. You know what I mean? Like he likes to just basically call out everyone acting like idiots, right? And just tell us basically how dumb.
Well, we've had a lot of stupid history here the last 5 years in this country. When I say when the textbooks are written, that's what Mueller says. He thinks there'll be textbooks. There won't be. But when history is served, you better make sure you win the right side of history, because couple bombs and a couple of machine guns on January 6th. Things might be a little different right now in the podcast, I would think, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen anything that was more of a recipe for whatever happened there, and it was awful, and all of it's awful, and no one's paid the price for it yet, and I hope they do. That cannot be the beginning of a trend. What do they say? Hitler tried for a couple of coups and didn't make it, but eventually he did. So, coup attempts put me on a different side of angry, I would say.
I have intentionally not bought into using words like coup, because to me that implies that there was some strategy. And
you're not on 4chan or Parler. Luckily for me, that my account was there, and all that I saw.
I just saw a mob right? But here's the really scary part for me, regardless of politics. Like, what would we have done if the Capitol Police would have shot
One of them.
100 Americans?
Well,
Well,
it
they
could have
did
been the
shoot one.
first one.
They
I
did
thought
shoot
the
one.
first one gets shot, and
They
that
did. That didn't stop them. That woman got shot in the neck by a Capitol Police officer, and they
she
didn't
wasn't shot
stop.
out on the steps in front of everybody else. She was shot in
Yeah,
front of 8 people in a chamber. Nobody really knew it happened, other than word of
I,
mouth and whatever. I
right.
mean, I was watching TV. I knew it happened. But what I'm saying is if you're rank and file out on the steps, if those people had my skin tone, think about this, Bill. I talked about this with Moeller today because it's been a month. And I wanted to wait for the impeachment and these crooked SOBs to say that wasn't a crime, that the person responsible for that wasn't responsible for that because he's going to give me money to get me elected again. That's a fundamental issue in America that everybody should have watched play out over the last week. But the thing that I'm really struggling with here is when I see these individual idiots, the shaman and the Confederate flag guy and bullhorn lady, they all have names now, right? That I look at these people and I say to Don, let's say you and I were disgruntled with Joe Biden or the election or whatever. If I called you and said, hey, Bill, get your flak jacket, get your AK, whatever it's called, and let's get together and we'll get in your truck. We'll go down to D.C. today. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to storm the Capitol. We're going to storm the Capitol with 50,000 other people. We're going to go in, past the cops. We'll shoot the cops, whatever. We're going to get there, and we're going to, take these sheets of paper, and we're going to hang Nancy. The concept of this and the notion that you're going to do this and there's not going to be any ramifications to your trip to Mexico next month. You know what I mean? It's really an incredible privilege taken that these people thought that they could just climb into the Capitol and would not get shot. If I said to you today, right now, we don't like Joe Biden, let's go down and do something crazy, you would say, dude, the minute we go to climb the gate at the White, we're going to get shot. That's pretty fundamental that
That's
if you
where
plan this,
right.
there can be no plan B for what you're going to tell your wife or your lawyer or your kids that you're not coming back from D.C.
That was
50,000 people went there with this in mind, did it, and they're apparently back on their farm right now. And the guy who staged it is hanging out getting his nails filed down in a resort in Florida. It's a little outlandish if my dad were to come back and I would have to explain it to him.
Well, Mike, I guess where my question was going, and you're right, about where that woman got shot and everything is if the Capitol Police would have opened fire
on the first group coming toward the wall.
At the beginning, right. If they resisted the people, and the way to resist was ultimately they had to shoot Americans, how would the world have pivoted?
I have no idea. It is so frightening to me that how it turned out is almost, I don't want to say okay, because I'm not related to Officer Sicknick or any of the rest of these people, but it is an absolute miracle. It's an absolute miracle.
There's no way that in December, if you and I had a conversation, Ness, these Trump guys.
Well, if you would have told me Brady would have won the Super Bowl, I might have had a hard time with
that. they just might be crazy enough that they're going to storm the Capitol. There is no way.
Well, they're going to get shot. No, they're not. They're white.
Right. There's no way that that story would get told the way that it did. And I just that guy Dan Carlin in his podcast, he talks about the fact that the people, what we have an under appreciation for, if that's even halfway decent English, but the social media conundrum of people getting fed what they want to read. And he goes on about he reads all these far right and far left, and he's like, the far right believed that the day after Joe Biden was confirmed as president, that they were going to round all the Trump supporters up and put them in, concentration camps. And his only reason for going there is if you believe that, what would you be willing to do if you thought that the next day,
Well,
police
they've
were
wrapped
going to
that word
come
up in
and take your
socialism, which has been
family?
very convenient for about 75 years, right? He's a socialist. That will kill you. Go kill him first. Bill,
This is
I
just
left out the
about the
most interesting
extremes. This
part
is
of,
just about the extremes, right? The extreme groups of people and the messaging that gets pounded into their head. And then if you and I sit here as middle of the road or reasonable people, and I told you, Ness, tomorrow they're going to come take you and your wife and they're going to lock you up because of the way you voted, what are you going to be willing to do? It's like, okay,
first off, investigate whether that's true.
well, I can
Let's
sort
start
of
with that.
yeah, but understand that we've got people all up and down the IQ scale and all up and down the resource scale and
Well,
have
that's
the ability to
unfortunate, but
read and all that.
that's
But
the way of the world, right?
it
Like
is.
literally.
All it is, I think all it is we look at it and we're totally mystified. I'm totally mystified. I cannot believe, like, my favorite picture is the dude who seems to be having the time of his life carrying the podium out of the Capitol
And
building.
waving to the cameras.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
the
but here's the
biggest
thing, Bill. I didn't even leave in
smile.
the most amazing part of these freaks that did this, right? These batshit criminals. I don't know what else to say. I mean, you get in a
Right.
plane in Madison, Wisconsin, fly to the Capitol, bring your guns, there to storm the Capitol, there to overthrow the government. That is why you came. And then when you get inside after breaking all these rules and don't get shot, you turn your camera on and start live streaming the crime. Like, the notion that that's cool, that that's okay, that that's acceptable is, I just can't imagine why, as a country, we're not more alarmed by that. The fact that it happened and I'm more pissed than the average bear about it is that we just forgot about it in 4 weeks. 4 weeks later, the guys and the women who were at risk in there getting stormed under desks were so intimidated that they voted with the person who did it to them. It's unbelievable to me. There's only a second segment I've done all week because I love you so much that I can talk to you about it, and I talk to Moeller about it. And you and I don't even agree politically, but you got to agree that this is crazy, and that you can't be on that team. You cannot be on that team. I mean,
it's not about it for me. It's not even about crazy or being on a team or any of that. I can't get over the like dual reality of it. Like, I can't still to this
that these
day
people
can't
thought they were going
believe
to
it
go back to
happened.
Dulles and fly home and just show the videos to their family. Look at
Just
what I did over the
that
weekend.
I can't believe it happened. I just can't believe it happened. And again, I'm sorry to keep using this other guy's thing here, but it's like in the end they push you to one side or the other. And he talks about Hitler and the Nazis, right? And he talks about, like,
That's how it all worked. It all worked on intimidation.
it's all good. It's all good to punch a Nazi, right? If I punch a Nazi, then I shut him down. Except that you don't. You create sympathy for the Nazi because you punched him, and they punch back, and then you end up pushing all the people out of the middle of the road into the gutters because you're forced to pick a team. And
Fair enough.
that is the crazy. Yeah, I mean that's.
I'm going to
man.
pick the team that didn't think it was cool to overthrow an election lost by 7 million votes in the United States of America. I'm not going to be on the team with the sides that say storm the Capitol with machine guns. And that includes, I'm not on the team that wants to kill Mike Pence either. Just so you know. So you know how middle I really am.
I understand that.
I don't think any of the politicians should be killed. I think they should be duly elected in a fair system. And I think money and the root of money in the government and PACs and super PACs, that's what turned the impeachment over the weekend. PAC money and dark money. I mean, money that we don't even know where the money comes from. That's troubling, really troubling for me.
Well, I think what I would encourage is, in addition to us being beside ourselves around the idea of storming the Capitol, and I still, like, I can't get over that, like, 100 people did get shot running up the front doors. Like, where's the guy who, like, I mean, how do we not secure the building? But anyway,
Well, the only way you secure the building is by shooting people. You just made that point.
I get it. I mean, but those are the consequences. That's the fear that you and I have that prevent us from acting like idiots. You know, like if I act like an idiot, I might get shot because the other
Correct.
guy has a gun. You know,
And it's his property.
yeah. Well, it's his job to protect this. You know, uh, I think it's important as wanting the world to like calm down and us find the middle and some happiness and some joy and some reasonableness and just
Well, part of
all
that's the
around.
mask driving us all crazy. I finally admitted that this week. I mean, it's been, 48 weeks or whatever it's been at this point. I'm getting a little stir crazy. And I think you're seeing people are doing a lot of normal things again, right? And
I
the vaccine is made. Anybody that's got the vaccines, and like, let's have a party. We're having a house party in March.
I know you're transitioning, and I want to transition too.
No, that's
I
fine.
agree.
That's fine. That's
But
where you started today.
I just want to put a nail in this. So what I'm asking you is, I need you to be as outspoken about like the mob that burned down the police department in Minneapolis or whatever.
Portland.
Maybe that one.
Well,
too.
Seattle too, but go ahead.
Yeah, whatever. Like we all have to not pick sides, right? And we have to talk about that behavior across the board and just say like civil discourse, right? That's what this country was built on. No, we all don't agree. Fundamentally, we don't all agree because we all have different experiences that get us to this place. But that doesn't mean that together we're not better, right? I mean,
that doesn't
we've
mean you
done
get a
that
gun
forever.
and you shoot the other side.
Yeah.
I have
Stop
no
it.
plans on getting a gun and shooting the other side.
And
I think anybody that knows me knows that, right?
Right. And all the people who either out of boredom or excitement or the mob or passion or their
Or lack of
beliefs or how they've been
accountability for what
wronged.
they
Yeah,
say on
all
the
that stuff.
internet.
Yeah.
All of that.
All of that. All of that. Like, you have the ability, just in your place in the world, right, to like, hey, the middle of the road's the only usable surface, right? Far right and far left are in the gutter. Let's stay out of the gutter, people.
Well, I mean, I think we always preach that America is a middle country, and when the fringes start to run it either way, it's not a very good thing.
Right,
Bill Cole is here. You go ahead.
No one's on TV. No one's on TV talking about the middle. Clickbait is far right, far left.
Well,
that's all the crap we're.
I tell you what, I'm in the middle. I had Barry Glassman on last week. I've got a standing invitation to Larry Hogan. We've had no problem discussing left or right. What I have a problem discussing, and I've brought this up many times, are just lies. When I have to discuss with you whether clean coal isn't clean or not, and I'm sure that you've had that conversation a few times at a convention of yours over the years, that the notion that you're just making stuff up. And, Texas was frozen because of the Green New Deal. That came out of the mouth of the governor yesterday. There is no Green New Deal, and you're in Texas. And take responsibility, take accountability, lose an election. You know what I mean?
I did just
stand on something.
Right. I'm almost
Don't lie
done.
to people.
I have another maybe 5 or 10 minutes left in your conversation with Bill Henry, who I by no means, is in a very unenviable position, right?
It's amazing he took the gig, right?
It's really
because he's not going to be a hero no matter what, right? We brought that up,
right? I feel so bad for people that find themselves in these spots, and the amount of courage and leadership that it takes, right? And I appreciate his perspective on I forget what analogy he used, right? But about change needing to take place incrementally and slowly over time, and that we live in a society where we want it to be a light switch.
Well, you only get 2 or 4 years, right? Or 6 years, right?
Yeah. Well,
if you're a quarterback in the NFL, you get 2, right?
And my only problem with that is I would tell Bill that, unfortunately, we don't have a long time. That's not going to work for the city. Bill, we've find some people that can work with him to cause, significant change quickly. We don't have, people are suffering, Like, we can't take 10 years, property tax aside, right? Fine. Maybe property tax changes takes 10 years. I don't care. But the waste, the cost savings, being able to deliver, quality services to their constituents, they can do it. They're going to have to break some eggs, and they're going to have to push hard. But
See, I look at things for the tax base, like where I live, and I'm about to list my condo again. And the real estate market's booming and all that, except here, I guess. But you're right here. But I look at this and I say, like, the Inner Harbor, and then I look on the other side, and this is where I'll bring baseball in, because I've been promising for 25 minutes we're going to talk a little bit of sports here, because I've been doing this with Marty Conway all week and the Orioles. The Orioles in this 2-year lease and the history of what makes the downtown area. I'm not we could talk Inner Harbor, Outer Harbor, jobs, all of those real things, schools, crime, all of that. But the thing that powers conventions, the city, restaurants, the tourist part of the harbor, that's a big tax base when the Red Sox and Yankees come to town and there's a real convention and Billy Joel comes to town and the Pope comes to town and, there's a concert down. All of those things that bring people together at a point where we could bring people together again, that the notion of what it's going to be, not just our city, man, every city, right?
City.
Like we're talking baseball right now. They're using Dodger Stadium and Oakland as vaccine centers. They're not going to play baseball there. You know what I mean? Like, what will that land and space be used for? And Marty Conway, I highly encourage people to go out and listen. And Marty ran the Orioles in the 80s, was part of getting Camden Yards built, part of George Bush's team down in Texas in the mid-'90s when they opened their stadium, their first stadium. They got another one. The notion that parking lot A and B, that at some point, in order for the Orioles to remain viable and here, whether it says Angelos on the building or Cole or Aparicio, it doesn't matter who owns it, that there's going to need to be something that we're familiar with in Philadelphia, St. Louis, Boston, other places that hold the thing together, and how the harbor is here. And the thing with the Orioles that I'm a little not surprised by, but a little bit taken aback at this point is the old man's been dying forever. The kids have been involved forever. The team's been in their family forever. That parking lot's been there forever. The ticking time bomb of 2021 and the end of the lease has been there forever. I would love to know what they want. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to how do we make it better? Like you say about Bill Henry, like what are the ideas to lower taxes? And I know there have been books written about that. You handed them to me, right? Boomtown, all these different things that you can read. But when it comes to taking a space like the Inner Harbor and Rouse coming in the 70s and saying, we're going to do this, and between the Inner Harbor, right, the aquarium and the Science Center, and then Camden Yards behind us and the Convention Center, there was a vision. I don't know if it came from Mayor Schaefer. It might have been a bunch of bankers. It might have been a bunch of old white developers. It might have been Jim Rouse. It may have been somebody taking advantage of some of the land they owned. Whatever it was, it really built and sustained our city into the 80s and 90s for a good 20, 25 years. And now we're 15 years on the other side of that. Not such a good idea. Stadium's not right. Land's not right. City's not right. Parking's not right. Harbor's not right. Tenants aren't right. Crime's not right. That you would have an idea. You know what I mean? Like, and Bill, I've said this for years, and I said this to Marty. I probably have like 5 studies on a Baltimore arena. Like in the course I've been on radio, it's my 29th year on radio. There was Ed Hale was going to build an arena in Towson, right? Somebody at Timonium. There's been 3 studies about how to blow up Baltimore Street and the Royal Farms Arena and make it different. There have been studies about taking chunks of other land in Port Covington. There have been all these studies. Where's the study for the harbor and where's the study for Camden Yard? Where's the study for what we do with land? And I know Angelos killed the deal up at State Center. Like, at some point, there needs to be somebody with a vision that then goes to somebody like Bill Henry and somebody that goes to mayors and legislatures. And, I mean, look at what Annapolis did with Kerwin this week. There's some vision there. I don't know if that money's going to be well spent or not, but we talk about kids. We talk about education. We've now done what governments do. We say, here's the money. Now, how will it be appropriated? How will it be well spent? For the city, It's the tenants like baseball teams, banks, Kevin Planks, and political people that can rise the boat. And there has been a change here. Bill Henry, Brandon Scott, we'll go down the list, right? There's going to be a change in baseball ownership at some point. That what is the vision for Baltimore? And, I'll leave that at your doorstep, but I find it interesting, this 2-year lease, that the Orioles, if they were smart, and they're not, and if they were aggressive and got up early in the morning and dreamed and worked hard, that somebody would have some ideas. Maybe they're too expensive. I saw one of it, like a glass bridge over the harbor, which was, connecting the South Harbor to Little Italy and to Fells Point. That seems to be sort of a no-brainer without a boat to some degree. Build a glass tunnel under the harbor, let people walk through it. But there has to be something here that's Gateway Archie that I'm not seeing, you're not feeling. There has to be something that says, here's hope. Here's the thing we're doing that's going to revitalize things. And I don't even see a plan for it. That's what worries me. I want to see smart people come forward, Bill.
So there is stuff there. I think that I don't know the history, right? Like maybe we need to go find the right people to talk to. Like I don't know that all those projects that you were talking about were master planned together. I'm not sure that
But
wasn't.
there was a plan.
Well, I think
they didn't just say we're going to put up a pavilion and then put up another pavilion and then we'll plant some trees and we'll think about an aquarium. Like that wasn't the way this happened. They went on a recruiting mission. Probably the way Port Covington right now is, the Weller folks over there, they have a vision of what they want to do. Now, whether it actually ever happens or not, but at least there's like a North Star. You know what I mean? What is the North Star here?
I guess what I mean is like when they decided to do Harbor Place or whatever, the Inner Harbor, did they really know that they were going to build a stadium up the street?
No, the Colts were still here.
Right. So
we were going to add skyboxes to Memorial Stadium at that point, right. I'm sure.
The stadium is a change in the plan, right? Like, and I think that's what you have. You have the result of, oh, this was great. You know what we need? We need a stadium. We should put the baseball team over here. Oh, I like that. Let's go. And then, now that we did the baseball team there, now I don't know whether they planned 2 stadiums or 1 when they planned Camden Yards.
They planned 2 because they were always planning for a football team. They always believed they were going to have a football team.
Okay.
So that was always part of the plan.
So
just like, by the way, in Nashville, I've been there, they're planning to get a team. They have a stadium. They have a second deck. They know where it is. It's downtown. They probably don't have the parking figured out because I've been there. It's a park in front of it. But they wouldn't take them long. 18 months, they'll have a second deck up, and the Nashville Orioles will be open in the season in 24, or the Nashville Rays or A's or whatever they're going to do, because they have people there getting up this morning right now to make that happen. I don't know who's getting up this morning to make the Inner Harbor better. I don't think John Angelos is getting up this morning really thinking about what he's seen in Atlanta or Chicago or St. Louis or Philadelphia and saying, if I can just hold up the government, if I can just get Larry or Francho, whoever's going to be the next governor, and I buddy up to Brandon Scott because it looks like he's going to be around a little while, and make nice with Felicia Porter because it's her side of town, that, the casino didn't work out so great. There's a vision for you, right? I mean, the casino was a grand plan, right? I don't know how that connects anything, but I know.
Well, that's the entertainment district. Don't you know that? That's the entertainment district.
Well, I mean, that's what you would have said about the Hippodrome 20 years ago, too. Spending money there was going to change things, right? And they're doing that with Lexington Market right now to change things.
What was the old concert hall? The name is escaping me.
Hammerjacks.
Right. So Hammerjacks and a Top Golf and the casino and the stadiums. And, yeah, that's the entertainment district. Things take time. I think there's a convergence and a change.
Well, now you got the plague built in too, so nothing will ever be normal. Say. Right?
Everything changed, right, and everything got put on hold. Like, I'm sure Nashville wants that team, but right now I can't imagine how bad their books look without tourism. So,
I'm sure John Angelos wants the Taj Mahal in parking lot A, right? But I'd love to see that pitch to say, here's what we want to do, and we want $800 million from the state to do it, and we want to own X percent of it like they did in New England when they built the mall up there.
But who was the entrepreneur that did that? Who was the entrepreneur that said Camden Yards or Double Stadium?
Well, that was Edward Bennett Williams saying, I have a franchise. If you want to keep it, build something, and let's build something that really helps the city, that brings people in, that puts a Hyatt up, that benefits the harbor and feeds people to Ruth's Chris and makes Steve DeCastro want to come here and build a place, because all that happened, dude. That's how it all happened, right? I mean, we were kids and we were just out drinking at Baja Beach Club having a good time, but there were people investing real research, people you know well and you've put up corporate roofs for, that were doing this and have been doing this for a generation. I'm asking in 2021, where are they? Where is their confidence? And more than that, and this goes back to ingenuity in America, right? And this goes back to education, right? Where's the ingenuity? Where's the idea? Where's the idea for the Gateway Arch? Where's the idea for the Inner Harbor? Where's the idea for the glass Peace Bridge over the harbor that, we stop bringing boats all the way down to the Inner Harbor and we just have them over at Ed Hale's place? You know what I mean? Like, there's a million ways to slice this up, but we go back to the fundamentals that you and Marianne Scully and everybody at Accelerant and everybody involved in city government would say, right? We have location. We're on I-95. We're near the water. We have a great history. We have Fort McHenry. We have crab cakes. We have hospitals. We have education. We have the port. Oh, my God, I can forget the port, right? We have all of these incredible natural resources. Now, how do we find leadership to harness that?
What does Steve Bisciotti say when you say this to him?
Steve Bisciotti says he's in the Virgin Islands on a boat right now, and one day he'll sell the football team.
Right.
But he'll write a check for $1 million for something good at the end of the year.
I know, but
a couple weeks ago.
But he's not like driving innovation in the city. He's not entrepreneuring, the development around the stadium.
Driving innovation. Hold on. That's going to be a new segment. Hold on. Driving innovation. Bill, you think I keep you here for the roof and your good looks? I really keep you here for the ideas. I really do. Driving innovation. I like that.
There's nobody down there, right? Like honestly, you and I both know, well, maybe we don't both know, but we can project that they should just knock down that Inner Harbor thing and make a park, right? Make it grass, and it would be nice. And that's kind of what the world wants right now. That isn't what they wanted in the 70s.
But what is that doing for the tax base of Baltimore? How's that getting people here?
Yeah, well, Baltimore.
We already have a park. It's next door to it. I saw dogs playing.
Connected all the way around. Right, connected all the way around. But Baltimore is where you live to go to work in D.C., right? And nobody likes that.
Look at that, Billy. That was this morning, buddy. Look at that. Yeah. I want you to see that. That was just this morning, man. Look at how beautiful that is, right?
I know. So Baltimore's where you live. D.C.'s where you work. That was the shining new hope to the city, right? Those were the millennials who were moving in to all our fancy new multifamily properties, and because it's half the price to live here as it is to live down there. And there's a train they can ride down. That's why the maglev's coming. That's so you can.
The maglev's coming to get us from Portland, Maine to Charlotte or to Atlanta, right? Like that, and I guess that's where Pete Buttigieg is with transportation and saying, they have this in China. They have this in Hong Kong. I've been on these trains in Japan. Why are we not considering this? And I always marvel when I go to New York and see any subway. So anytime I'm in anything that travels under the ground, I'm like, wow, who stuck their neck out and got this done politically? Where did this money come from?
But I think you'd be amazed at how old that started. But anyway, there haven't been enough voters to make a politician believe that they could get reelected by making sure that they built a train. Right?
People here don't want a train, they want a job.
They don't care, right?
And they want to be not robbed by people. They want to
Right.
be not threatened, and they want a job, and they want to be able to feed their families, and they want to have safe places to send their families.
Right.
That's me running for mayor. That's pretty fundamental, right? Like literally, that if you can rise those boats, you've done something in the city. And I think that that's where the conundrum for every Bill Henry and every Brandon Scott is that until we figure out the crime, and I think education's a part of that, right? So the Kerwin thing, that's going to be a part of it 10, 15 years from now, that slow moving thing you talk about, that child that is 2 years old right now or in her mother's belly over at Hopkins right now, what school is that child going to find 3, 5, 8, 10 years from now? And I mean, hell, whether it has running water or heat is a question right now, or whether it has lead paint on the walls. But how are we going to educate that child? And then how are we going to create opportunities for that child? And that isn't an inner city black child or a brown child or a, white Christian, Jewish, Muslim. That's just every child, right? Like
Right.
that's where we need to be as a society. And I remember my dad, I didn't even know your grandfather, but I'm sure that's what he was telling you, right? But we need to take care of each other. We need to be as smart as we can be, as good as we can be, as efficient as we can be to give us hope. And in the city right now, there's a lot of challenges, and certainly on the business level, we talk about those. But I think at the level of the politicians right now, it's about Susie who can't pay her rent, Bill who lost his job, COVID, all of that, right? And
We were lucky, as timing has it. I mean, this is like a ridiculous thing to say, but part of the effort to make things better was going to come in the way of, a concerted effort to improve our tourism, right?
sure.
Because it plays on a lot of the resources that you talked about, like transportation's easy to get here and get out of. We have all these great things,
And people
and
can come here for 3 days and go home with a better reputation of our city. The only way we're going to change our reputation is to bring
right,
people here and show it to them and let them go back. That's how it
right.
works.
And I think it's interesting. Like I say, we're lucky because if the pandemic would have happened in September instead of March, we'd have probably spent $1 million, $2 million on a program to drive tourism that would have fell flat on its face, right? And instead, in March, we were just starting to get going, right? Like the money had been spent on some branding, there was the messages was starting to get floated out, but then it all stopped. So I think tourism is, I used to think it was the wrong plan because I just felt like it's too fragile and too um, not made of substance, right?
It's
Like
not local unto itself. It
well,
relies on something that's not us.
you're a hot town for a little while and then you're not, right? Like I
We
want
were
some,
that, right? We were
right?
that.
I want something that works forever, and that's jobs and manufacturing and like all that good stuff, and that's much easier said than
Work, live, play, Baltimore.
yeah, right.
Right.
So I don't know. I think now you have to question. It's like, okay, we were headed down a tourism path, which I was supportive of because it's quick, right? You can get these people in. We can start generating revenue.
Well, when I mentioned the Orioles, right, as an entity, what built my life, my career, this business, the Orioles were 82 opportunities to bring 30 to 50,000 people into the city. That's the only reason they're here. They're not here because it said Baltimore on the front or
Right.
Mr. Angelos is a nice guy or the stadium's pretty. It economically had a conceptual plan that worked for a limited time. Part of that, like your tourism, is if your team sucks, there's no travel. If your team sucks, it's like the planes don't work anymore, right? And part of that also is if your city has a crime problem, you're not going to get conventions
Yeah.
or a perception of a crime problem.
Well, but even that, I mean, there are compounding issues there. Like we have infrastructure and facility issues that aren't resolved. Like to your point, I think you probably nailed it fairly accurately. Like, hey, Brandon, there's a handful of like big ticket items
Solve one of them.
You go right.
Pick the most
do it.
important one.
Yeah, you gonna do
If
it?
it's the baseball team, because you think the baseball team's the most important thing. If you think
Right.
the harbor's the most, but you got to do something for
Yeah.
downtown. There has to be a big
Yeah.
idea. There needs
Yeah.
to be a big idea. For me, Bill, and I'll always say this, I live here. The big idea to me is how you get the people from Federal Hill to be able to get to Little Italy and back and forth and do something visual and strong and forward thinking. And I always say Gateway Arch because that's just something 50 years later that means something. But we have a lot of assets. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of good things here. As much as we talk about the bad things, like America, we can sit here and talk about the bad things in America. Got a lot of good things here too. And it's really important that we take advantage of the good things we have and make them better, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I think the water taxi and Uber and Lyft kind of get in the way of moving that cross harbor bridge up the priority list. I don't think I totally understand the feeling of the wall, right? Like if you're on Fed Hill, you don't make it to Canton, right? Like it just doesn't happen, right? Um, I don't know
Well,
if
they have
that's
that in Tampa and St. Petersburg. Nobody goes across the bridge. I'm not
yeah,
saying it's like that here. We have a tunnel. It costs too much money to go through it. That's another issue altogether. That if I want to run to Dundalk and pick something up, that, if I want to take the tunnel, it's going to cost me $10 to get there and back, right? So I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about something physical that looks like we've changed the city, that there is hope in the city, that beyond the Bromo Seltzer Tower, that there is some sort of beacon of light, that the harbor, that the baseball team, that the football
oh,
team, that some physical things presented themselves as, I got to be a part of that. I got to see that. I got to be involved in that. I thought Light City's a great idea. I mean, really do.
from
Having
the
been a part of it down here. Now, part of that is restaurants being involved, people being involved, kids being involved, business being involved. All that has to happen in the same way that Governor Schaefer, then Mayor Schaefer, envisioned the city fair, bringing black people and white people together, right? In the 70s, after there was a lot of trouble here.
yeah, we definitely need I've been thinking about this for a while. I don't remember whether we talked about it or not, but we need like the end of the pandemic parade. Like we used to have a lot of parades in Baltimore City. We don't really have the parade
St.
anymore.
Patrick's Day is one.
Yeah, but I mean this is like a civic introduction pride, like this the police and the fire and the politicians and the businesses and
My
all these.
favorite nights is the lighting of the Mount Washington, the Washington Monument in Mount Vernon, right? That's an incredible civic night. I mean, over the course of my 20 years, I've attended that 10, 12 times. It's just,
Right,
it's incredible. It's like right out of A Christmas Story, kind of, sort of. And
right, right.
having more of that, we're all going to want to gather when this is over, right? So this goes back to John Angelos, and I'll leave you with this homework, Bill. The homework for everybody should be, what's your big idea? Give me a great
Well,
idea.
I
Give me you give me a
know you're going to give
parade
me
at the end of the
homework,
pandemic. That's good.
but
I like that.
like you gotta sit back and go look for pictures that you took out your window 10 years ago. I mean, if you're asking about physical space alterations, the city skyline has changed a
Oh my
lot.
God, that huge building sitting
A
in Little
lot.
Italy just lights up, right?
There's a building right next to you that wasn't there. Like that's a huge building, Light Street. And I think once the Weller guys get out of the ground, right? Like that's going to change that other side of 95 and the whole Harbor Point, Harbor East connecting. I mean, there's a lot of built stuff, not necessarily community oriented. Like to your point, right? It's not an arena, it's not a convention center, it's not a stadium, it's not a shopping
But it's a place for
center.
jobs and it's a place to live.
It's a place to live. Yeah, a lot of places to live. Exelon, yeah, okay, that's some jobs. I don't know if there's anybody in those buildings since last March. So
Doesn't feel that way.
that's the other weird part, right? I hear you. I
All
mean,
right, dude. Well, look,
it would be good.
tell everybody what you do. Bill Cole is here from Cole Roofing and Gordian Energy. We meandered a little longer. I'll break this one into 2 segments for radio because it's a little lengthy. And people would think we have like a whole agenda. The only thing I've written down here is driving innovation. So that's all I want to know. Driving innovations, your quote for the day.
So have you, well, before I get into what I do, but a plug for Ted Lasso is a show on Apple TV,
Ted Lasso. Okay.
which I didn't really know I even had, but like I'm screwing around on my phone one day and all of a
Okay.
sudden I can watch it. Uh,
Small-time football coach Ted Lasso, professional soccer team in England, having no soccer experience. Sounds like
it's
me on radio.
it's pretty funny, and it's got some good life stuff, and it's a pretty good quick hitter. Anyway, we do commercial
Poor
roofing.
Jason Sudeikis is in it. He just got dumped by his wife, Olivia Wilde, for that rock star. Huh. I
Well,
watch a little bit too much Inside Edition or something
I
with my wife,
see
I guess.
this.
So.
He's a funny dude. If you like his kind of sort of subtle dry humor, it's very
Well, I got a
funny.
crush on his ex-wife, if that matters. That'll get me watching. And there is a sports theme here, so we'll at least stick to that. Bill Cole is here. I'm going to hold the other hat up. This is Gordian Energy, and he'll do solar, commercial jobs, commercial roofing, and fantastic conversation, and hopefully a cold beer sometime in Vegas before the year's over at a Ravens game.
No
I'm
doubt.
holding out hope, Bill. I'm holding
Me
out
too.
hope. You
Me
in on
too.
that? You in
Yeah,
on Ravens at Vegas if we can do it?
Oh yeah, we're trying to do it. Yep.
All right.
We've
Get a
been
shot.
talking
All
about
right.
it.
Let's all
We've
go
been
get a
talking
shot and be
about it.
safe. Bill Cole will be here all next week as well. You can hear the commercials. You can find him at Cole Roofing and, of course, at Gordian Energy. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore, driving innovation and never stop talking Baltimore positive.